I am leaving. Time for me to go. Won't overstay my welcome. My time has come.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Traveling Black Chicks. I am your host Lucy Hamlet, and I am honored and delighted to be sitting here again with Dr. Naila Keleta-Mae. How are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I am so good, and can I just say thank you
Of course.
again for doing this. This is take 2. We won't talk about what happened with take 1.
My pleasure.
So we're in the new year, 2012. How are you feeling?
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Excited.
Yeah.
Yeah, and thankful
Good.
to be here.
Yeah, for sure. When I rang in the new year with a few friends, and in that moment I thought it is so great to be here.
Yes.
Yeah. How did you do the New Year's?
With friends.
Yeah.
With friends at a nice house party and on the dance floor.
Yeah.
Of their basement. Proper.
That's good. A house party in the basement.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. I feel like friendship and being around good people is the best way to ring in a new year. So yeah. So we're gonna talk. You know how we do. We're gonna talk to Dr. Keleta-Mae about her journey thus far, as a scholar, as a performer, and as an educator.
Bloom where you're planted, I've been told. But here I have no blossoms, few leaves, weak stems. Sand, the stone, and broken glass yield no respect.
And you're a doctor of
theater studies.
It's
a doctorate of philosophy. My specialization is in theater studies.
Brilliant. And tell us about that journey. You can start wherever it is that you'd like to start, but tell us about what it took to get you there.
Gosh, I guess I would start by saying that I was raised by people who believed in education as a vehicle.
Yes.
As a tool. To be able to have access to various things. So it was always deemed as something that was important in our home. And I, did my undergrad at Concordia in Montreal, and thought, okay, well, I did it. I got my degree, and that was kind of the focus. I had to go and I did it, got my degree, and I was done.
Yeah.
Didn't think about any more studies, and I worked as an artist full time, and as such in Montreal for a while, and then I thought, maybe I should do my MFA or do some graduate school. So I started looking at graduate programs and did a graduate program in theater, focusing on playwriting at York University. And I thought, okay, now I'm really done.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh my gosh. Come on. And I wasn't even planning to do a graduate degree, so I'm done.
You're almost like a lifetime student.
I was like, I'm done. I'm done. This is great. So I went back out into the world, and also with the MFA, it was supposed to be terminal, meaning that I could teach in universities with it. So I thought, this is awesome, right? So I applied to positions, maybe 2 or 3 positions, and people said, oh, your application was really interesting, but no.
Wow.
Yeah. What do you mean? And so I remember having a great conversation with somebody who was the head of a hiring committee at one of the institutions I applied to. And he said, yeah, your experience is great, and you do have your MFA, but the reality is that other people have their PhD. And so that's when I learned that, yes, it was terminal. Yes, I technically didn't have to do it, but the reality of the marketplace was that if I wanted to be able to teach in universities or to be a scholar, then I had to do more work. So I, kind of thought about that for a while and still didn't go back. And I was asked to present at a show. Actually, this happened before I did my MFA. That's why I started doing graduate school. I was asked to perform at a conference in Montreal. And I remember going, and I was supposed to perform at closing night in the bar. And so I went to go do the show, and I remember picking up the program, Lucy, and I thought, God, look at all these interesting panels.
Yes.
And all these interesting topics. Like, how come I'm not
on them,
a part of this conversation? Why am I here just to be entertainment?
Yes.
Right? And that's when I also realized that I didn't have the skill set that I needed to be a part of those conversations. And it wasn't that I didn't have things to say, but I didn't have the structure of of having done a graduate school and
Right.
kind of learning in a particular way.
Right,
So a combination of those things, and a great conversation with Janet Sears that I had at the African Canadian Playwrights Festival. I remember saying to her, yeah, I'm thinking about my PhD, but I don't want to stop being an artist. And she's like, well, why would you have to stop? And I said, well, I just thought I'd have to choose. Like, I have to become a scholar and that would be it. And she was like, no. She's like, what are you talking about? You can do anything that exists within you.
Yes.
You can do it because it all exists within you already.
Yes.
So yeah, with that I decided to do my PhD, and now I'm finished.
Wow.
My
Breath of fresh air finished.
Finished in November.
Yes.
And thankfully got a position as an assistant professor at the University of Waterloo in their Department of Drama and Speech Communication that I started before I finished. Obviously on the condition that I finished.
Yes.
But so that's what I've been doing for the last while.
So
long answer.
Long answer, but very informative. So you mentioned Janet Sears, great playwright, great, I think she also is a professor at U of T. Or
She's at U of T.
She's at U of T. Talking about being able to do everything that exists within you. I think that's very powerful. So within you lies a performer. Let's talk a little bit about her and what her, what she's about.
I think that what I'm excited about right now at this point in my life is that they're all together. Yeah, so that my scholarship, the PhD research that I did was on female blackness in Canada.
Yes.
And so in many ways I was researching and writing about the same thing that my poetry has been talking about and investigating for a long time, the same thing that my plays have investigated, the same thing that my music investigates. So they don't actually exist separately. So there isn't a her who is an artist who is concerned with things that the her who is a scholar isn't concerned with, right? So so I'm interested in experimenting. I'm interested in thinking about female blackness. I'm interested in thinking about femaleness, about blackness, about sexuality. I'm interested in thinking about culture and politics. So just interested in life.
She's lost weight. She's irrational. Look into her eyes, they look empty. I'm right here. She's not normal. She can't cope. She's going crazy. I'm right here. Mental illness runs in her family. Manic depression, mania, mood swings, psychosis, delusions of grandeur, schizophrenia, withdrawal from reality, suicide, nervous breakdowns. But this whole entire world is breaking down, dissolving before my eyes. Madness, lies, madness, deception, more lies. Centuries ago, they would have said the ancestors were speaking through me. Centuries ago, they would have said the ancestors were setting me free. Centuries ago, this would have been revered, a gift, an ability, but here, now, some call it madness.
So let's talk a little bit about Black femininity in Canada. In one of your poems, you there's a line that sticks with me every time I talk to you. I bring it up.
Call me that angry black bitch, sister, nigga, whatever. We're birthing the next generation with no support or voice. Suicide hovers on the breath in the realms of thought of all the so-called strong black women warriors I know.
Wow. Let's take a breath. Tell me about that line.
That line comes from a poem called "This Is My Rant."
Yes.
That I actually wrote first as an email response to an email that a colleague in South Africa sent me, and I think that line is speaking to the notion of call me all these categories that it seems that people in bodies like ours can fit into.
Yeah.
And at the moment in Canada, it's, you're angry, you're black,
Yeah.
you're a bitch, you're a sister, or you're a nigger. Right?
Yeah.
Like that there's not necessarily always a lot of other obvious space.
Right.
And the poem is arguing that there is other space. But you can call me all of those things. Yeah, but that there is other space that so many people in female black bodies inhabit and are living. So I feel like the call me part of that line is important, and it's also a poem that I was petrified to perform.
Right. Yes.
Right.
Why?
Like because I thought I can't say that.
Yes.
And I can't say some of the other things that are being said in that poem. I was terrified.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I've learned, and Audre Lorde speaks about this too, right? That I've learned that when when I'm petrified about a poem or any bit of writing, it means I have to do it. Right?
Yes.
That it's my sign that it's saying something that is that's holding me in, and that the saying of it will lessen its power.
Right. Right.
That it gives me an opportunity that while I could think the things that I didn't think I could say, and I could write things that I didn't think I could say, that the actual saying of it means that thing no longer controls me in the same way.
I'm that Canadian trying to be Jamaican, African faking nigga. Hardcore exterior chick. The one who wants her clit licked on the regular, about to go buy a vibrator type of nigga. That creative type writer, singer, that sister who doesn't fit. That platinum blonde wig owning, sweet essential oil wearing, bougie, materialistic, spiritual nigga. The sister outside a woman's spirit blazing fire, shy as hell type of sister nigga. That on the prowl saying she's dying to fuck but scared as hell when the time comes. Kind of sister who can come when the loving's good.
I think it's an interesting moment in the sense that kind of what the national narrative about female blackness is. There's a theorist named Catherine McKittrick, a Canadian theorist, who talks about the safe haven myth, right? That Canada, the myth is that everyone came through the Underground Railroad and for freedom, and that Canada is the place of freedom and possibility. And then we think about, which in many instances it is.
Yes.
When we talk about female blackness, I think in Canada, when I'm teaching in various places, what I learn most is that people think about Harriet Tubman.
Yes.
Which is fascinating because she's actually African American.
Yes.
Right?
She's not Canadian.
She's not Canadian. No. And what that allows us to have is for the blackness to be elsewhere.
Right. Yes.
Not that the blackness can come, but it actually is always coming from somewhere else.
Yes.
And denies the stories of Marie-Joseph Angélique, for example, who was very much in Canada, in Montreal hundreds of years ago, or the settler black communities in Ontario, in various parts of the country.
Yeah.
Definitely Halifax, but in other parts of the country as well, right? So that the female blackness is coming from somewhere else and coming to Canada. And there's a way that can continue, that kind of safe haven myth that there was no slavery here, that there was no blackness here other than those who came for freedom. And Catherine McKittrick talks about the fact that we can always be like shocked, like, oh, I didn't know that there were black people in Ontario in the 18th. I didn't know that there were black, right? That it allows a kind of climate of constant shock that blackness exists. So what I'm thinking about is, because I am coming from a performance background and a theater background, I'm thinking about and writing about and researching about, like, what does it mean to think about being in a female black body as being something that we inhabit, that we can perform.
Yes.
Yeah, that we can, and perform not just for non-black audiences, but very much perform for black audiences as well, right? So if I wear my hair wrapped, then that kind of speaks to a different, that aligns me perhaps with a different kind of black community.
Yes.
If I lock my hair, it might align me with a different black community. If I take my hair and I press it out and it's straight, then I align myself with a different community, right? And that in each of those steps, we might be alienating ourselves from other communities, but opening up possibilities for some communities. If I dress in a particular way, I might reference one community. Dress some other way, I'm referencing another community. So I'm really thinking about the body as being like, in a sense, a space of performance.
Yes. And the ability to navigate through all of those spaces.
And to play too.
Yeah.
So that to try to kind of juxtapose the notion of burden. Right? The burden of female blackness.
Yeah.
Of being in this body. To think about ways that we can, play and be imaginative and have fun with the bodies that we're in the various ways that we can perform it.
Yeah.
Well, these days I've been thinking about my gender and race, surprise, surprise. Gender and skin color, actually, more than race. And I've just been wondering if it's compromising my ability to be a human being. And so, in these groups that I've formed and communities, communities of color, we identify as a person of color. But I'm not convinced, right? Like if I'm a person of color, who just gets to be a person? I want to be a person. I understand the groupings. I understand as we align ourselves with people with particular political views, cultural views, interests, musical interests, religious interests, etc. But I am wondering if it compromises my ability to see other human beings, to have empathy for them and compassion and connect with other people. And then like when you get into your community, right? It's like you're safe here. The rest of the world is crazy and horrible and wretched, but right here in this particular community, you're safe. Well, I've been in those safe communities, and they have been wretched and horrid as well. Because they're comprised of people.
Now, I say all that knowing that there is a history of violence with the female black body too, and that there have been many occasions when we have historically and continue to be forced to perform.
Yeah.
We can think of the Venus Hottentot, for example. But that wasn't about her desire to perform and have fun. That was about her body being made on display, right? That's something that people could rent out for their parties. Yeah. So there's a different. So it's a tense line too, because there's the historical part of being coerced to perform, but I'm interested in kind of the liberatory possibilities of it too.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you talk about that because sometimes it can be, and as a person inhabiting a black female body, it can be exhausting to carry that existence because there's so many ways that you are either doing it right or wrong. And so do you find that, and do you tend to want to talk about that in your work?
Yes, and I think I always, I want to say I always have, but that feels like such a definite statement, but I definitely have been working to, when I think back through kind of all of my work and all of my writing, that there's a way in which it's speaking to the experience of being in this body. But I think that simultaneously that it's so informative to be in a body that is not considered the norm. Yeah. Right? That you learn that particularly in a Canadian setting, right? Raised in Canada in a body that is not considered to be the norm, that's always from elsewhere, that's always kind of, not always, almost always being questioned. Well, touch your hair, touch your skin, all of those kinds of things. That it also forces us to learn. Yes. And to question and to not accept the dominant narrative as truth.
Now, some call it madness. But I say sanity is an illusion, where people split, slip, slide, dissolve, disintegrate into an abyss of hate, want, neoliberal open market economic elite supremacy. Germany, Belgium, France, the USA, Canada, Portugal, Spain, the UK, suck the blood of post-colonial lands in Mozambique, South Africa, Jamaica, Haiti, Angola. International financial institutions, the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, and indigenously run governments implement economic structural adjustment programs that devalue currency, that remove food subsidies, that create that long-term impossible to pay back kind of debt. The kind that develops third world countries. The kind that facilitates first world privilege. While the United Nations turns a blind US, Russia, Japan, North Korea dictated eye to humanitarian crises. That is the madness. That's the madness. That is the madness. Like an owl exploding in your life, in your brain, in yourself, Amiri Baraka says. Like an owl who knows the devil all night, all day if you listen. Like an owl exploding in fire. We hear the questions rise in terrible flame like the whistle of a crazy dog. We
What type of reactions do you get from your audience?
I would say that the Canadian and kind of North American audience, as you know, that we are trained to be polite, right? That we generally clap.
Yes.
So, and if we, generally if we dislike some, and we might even give standing ovations to things that we don't really like.
Yes.
Right?
Have you,
right?
Yes. Oh, yes.
And I think that that's kind of a North American thing.
Yeah.
So generally the feedback I get is that, that's great, because the people who want to say something are people who connected with the piece.
Yes.
Because that's kind of the culture, the audience culture. If you connect with the piece and you have something positive to say, you say it to the artist.
Yeah.
If you're not feeling it, you say it to your friends.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So that, in that sense, as an artist, for me, I can't really gauge the effectiveness of my work on what people say to me afterwards, because already it's skewed towards people who like the work.
Yes, I understand.
So it makes it a bit tricky. It makes it in the sense that I have to be in conversation with other artists or people who I think I trust to be, I guess, honest and critical. Of the work, and I have to also listen to my own sense of questions of, am I pushing enough? Am I doing work that I'm terrified to do? Or am I doing things that make me feel comfortable? And if I'm doing things that make me feel comfortable, I generally think I need to do something else.
Because you all constantly want to push.
Yeah.
Don't you go down in the narrow, nasty gutters with them. Filthy razors be they claws, swaggering, 7 women of color cocks, circling. Don't you go down in the bowels of degradation with them, scheming, snarling, squinting, squealing, spinning soul from flesh. Your interactions were traumatic. Now you're bloodied, bruised, discombobulated, and calling them sisters? Fool! Of color don't make them blood. And gender don't mean they care about you. They be marrow-sucking, solidarity spewing, trifling bamboozlers. 7 of color women, flavored tangy, acrid, sour, underbelly mass, molded core in search of fire. Pure, 1 blossoming gardenia to reignite olfactory. 5 tablespoons of cod liver oil to cleanse, a heap of sassafras for nurture, and repeat in sleep. No safety there.
So in our last question, I want to just send some nuggets of wisdom from Dr. Keleta-Mae to, the young and the not so young who are coming up and working through our stuff. What would you say were the points of wisdom that got you through?
Gosh, I think that there is this is what comes to mind. There's a healer named Dawn Bramadat, and she said to me once that if I don't listen to the voice inside of me, that eventually that voice will stop speaking to me. And that really helped me kind of shift course in my life, in the sense that I think I was listening to what I thought other people were thinking about me.
Right. Okay.
Right? So that I was responding to my perception of someone else's perception of me. Right? Like how far removed is that?
That's very far removed. Yes.
So I can't, we can talk about the trite. Like, I can't wear this in this space because if I wear this outfit, that person will think this about me, right? So that's like the kind of trite, clothing is not trite, but that's like there's that part of it. And then there, of course, the deeper or another aspect of it is I can't think this or say this because if I say this thing that I'm thinking and feeling, then so and so will think this about. And so when Dawn Bramadat said that to me, it made me think like I just have to listen and respond. Because if I don't listen, then the only voice that I'll begin to hear is this my perception of someone else's perception of me.
Yes.
So I guess my words or my nugget would be to listen.
Yeah.
Listen. Because I think it's in, it's in each of us, whatever it is, but to listen and to trust, and then do the work that voice, because whatever it's saying, there's gonna be just work associated with it. Like it probably won't be easy, but to commit to the work. Yeah, because I think that eventually, like I feel that is a louder and louder presence. Yes, in my life, and that there is less of the other stuff. Yeah, filtering in, which is allowing me to have more space and take up more room. Because I'm just trying to move with what's coming.
Everything that wants to be expressed because you're listening. Love it. Thank you.
Thank you.
We are truly thankful and honored to have been able to sit with you.
As am I. Yeah. May I say?
Oh, yeah.
I'm excited about the Traveling Black Chicks. I think it's a wonderful initiative, so I feel quite honored to be a part of it. Yeah.
I am leaving. Time for me to go. Won't overstay my welcome. My time has come. Bloom where you're planted, I've been told. But here I have no blossoms, few leaves, weak stems. Sand, stone, and broken glass yield no respect, no trust, little hope. I know these beds well, cut my heart in them. But I think I know a place where soil is cherished, thoughtful, kind, forgiving. I'm headed there tonight. Just got to find a safe place for my soul to nurture myself so that I might grow.